All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking some time out of your morning to come and join us and learn a little bit about our new math curriculum. I'm really excited because what we have now is a coherent program all the way from kindergarten through Algebra 2 at the high school. So our students are going to be working through like one coherent program using some of the same strategies and vocabulary. And I think that we're going to really see some growth in our students just because of being comfortable with the material. All right. Just for any of you that don't know me, my name is Amy Bloom. I'm the K-12 math coordinator for the district. I don't know if Amy is here, but Amy Shepard and Dave Venny are going to be in and out of these meetings. They are the directors of ACI for clusters 1 and 2. All right, we have a vision for our K-5 mathematics. Go ahead and take a minute and read this and pick out some words that really stand out to you. Here are some of the ones that I kind of like to highlight. We like that every child, every student can come out of mathematics feeling confident, like a capable doer and thinker of mathematics. We want to spark some joy in them, some creativity, some curiosity. But really, what we want is I know that students aren't going to leave, not all students are going to leave loving math the way that I love math. I'm crazy about math, right? But I know that that's not the case for everybody. So, what we really want is to have our students go through our program and leave with the confidence to be lifelong problem solvers, where they can take the math that they've learned and apply it to things in their real life. So, high quality materials matter. They matter to our teachers, our students, our future, right? So, when we started the curriculum adoption process, we started basically by looking at every resource that was out there that we could possibly pick, right? And one of the first ways that we started narrowing that down was through using EdReports. EdReports is an independent entity. It's not connected to any curriculum or publishing company or anything like that. And they align with Achieve the Core and the Common Core State Standards. And they measure all of the curriculum resources to confirm that it is a guaranteed and viable curriculum for us to be using. So they measure it in Gateway 1 to make sure that it meets the expectations for focus and coherence. And basically that means like, is it hitting the state standards that we need it to hit? Is it doing it in a coherent, mapped out way? Gateway 2 is that it meets expectations for rigor and practice content connections. So basically, is it offering this grade level content in a rigorous way that's going to continue to help our students grow? And is it connecting it to real life pieces and helping our students make connections from grade to grade? And then there's Gateway 3, and they only assess Gateway 3 if the resource meets Gateway 1 and 2. And then Gateway 3 measures it on expectations for usability, both for our teachers and for our students. So here are the results on EdReports for this resource. As you can see, it is green across the board. It's actually green across the board for the secondary side of it as well. Really high scores in the focus, coherence, and rigor areas. And then you do see we lost a point or two in that usability piece. But I think, honestly, part of that is just because it's a newer piece with lots and lots of different pieces that we could be using, which I'm going to kind of talk about as we go through. So what's included? So there are some physical pieces, and then there are also some digital pieces to this curriculum. These are the student edition books. Each grade level is color coded. So everything that goes to first grade is red. Okay, it has that little turtle on it. It's red. And so each grade level, each student has a physical student edition book. It's actually in 2 volumes, so one for semester 1 and one for semester 2. And then they actually have an additional book that's like extra practice worksheets and things like that are in that book. The teacher edition looks the same as this. And then any of the extra resources that came with that are also in that color coded piece. On the digital side, all of the digital pieces are accessed through this Connect Ed app. So on your ClassLink dashboard, if you see this red and white Connect Ed app, that's where you're going to access all of these pieces. When teachers and students log in, they have 2 tiles that they can select. One, it looks like the picture of the book, and that's where they access the digital pieces that align to the curriculum resource. And then depending on their grade level, they have a tile that links to Alex or Alex Adventure, which is like a digital extra practice learning pathway, similar to what IXL was for us in the past. Alex and Alex Adventure have some of those pieces. So, as an administrator or a coach, if you are not rostered to a class in Infinite Campus, you are not going to have access to these materials. So, the way to get access to be able to view this, like on our end of things, is to be added as a co-teacher to Infinite Campus rosters, because Connect Ed. It pulls all of the rosters directly from Infinite Campus, kind of like HMH does at the elementary level. So like I have been added to a kinder, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5 to be able to have access to this just as a co-teacher. I don't go in Infinite Campus. I don't touch any of the grading or anything like that. It's just so that I can have access to these digital materials. So for you, if you would like to be able to see that, you're going to have to add yourself as a co-teacher. All right. So all of our units have a launch activity. Okay. There's an Ignite activity that kind of introduces some of the math that our students are going to be doing, but in a real life application kind of way. And then there are 2 different things. This image here on the left, this is in the student edition book. Every unit launches with this little STEM kid character, kind of introducing themselves, talking about some STEM career that links to the math that they're going to be learning, and just kind of introduces some of that math and how it applies to that career. So this is in all student edition books. And then if you go into the digital dashboard, there are 2 videos that teachers can show that link to this piece as well. So again, it pulls that little STEM career kid character, and they talk through that career and how it connects to the math. And then there's a math in action video that kind of leans more heavy on the math side of things, and kind of launches into that Ignite activity that teachers could be doing with their students. One thing that's really great about this curriculum is just about everything is available in English and Spanish. Unfortunately, these STEM career and math in action videos are the one thing that are not available in Spanish. But in the student edition, they have this page, the Ignite activity, all of those things are in Spanish, just the 2 videos are not. So teachers can still use them in their dual language classes, but then have the conversations in Spanish. So then every lesson within that unit starts with 2 number talk options that teachers could use. They could use both of them. They could use one. They could use the other, depending on how much time they have, or if they've pulled one maybe into their morning meeting, any of those options, right? So the first one here, this is in the student edition book. So teachers can either project the digital version of the student book and kind of walk through it with their students so it looks exactly how it looks for the students to follow along. Or there are also slides that are already made that teachers could use as well. Amy, go ahead. No, no Amy Shepherd. Okay, we're going to keep going. So, what I really like about these be curious routines that are at the start of every lesson is that it really mirrors some of the language and the processes that our teachers are already doing, like in ELA. A lot of these are like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? How are they the same? How are they different? Those types of conversations that you're already having in ELA can now translate over to math as well. So this is one that has them finding patterns, counting patterns by ones and counting patterns by tens. Um, then on the digital side of things, teachers also have access to this number routine. And what I really like about these is these are tech enhanced. So very similar to how the forward exam has pieces that are drag and drop or placing items on a graph or things like that. These number routines that are available through the digital side are like that. So this particular one here has students estimating on an open number line. And open number lines are so important for this reason. Students have to estimate where 3/10 would go on that first number line. So if I were teaching this, I would have my students look at this. We talk about it a little bit. I'd have them turn and talk to a neighbor and kind of come up with an answer. Bring it back whole group, share out, where do we think this is? Maybe even have a student come up and like drag and drop that blue dot onto the number line where we think it should go. And then what I like about this is that it extends that number line, right? That open number line. It's like, okay, so now where does 3/10 go between 0 and 1? So again, I would have them kind of talk and come to some ideas. We can do this whole group, or we can do it, as small groups as well. All right, so student edition. So in that student edition workbook, this is the first page then after that Be Curious activity. This is the page that has the learning that's happening. So teachers can project this or they can use the slides, kind of walk through these first few examples and the learning points and the vocabulary. I know that our younger grade levels, like our K1, 2s, our students are having a little bit of trouble following along. So I know a lot of teachers, what they've done is they have students just come to the carpet without their books and they go through this first page, kind of explaining things and doing some conversations and things, and then have them go back to their seats and open up their books as they start to work through some of the other math. So you could do this top part all together, do this work together, piece together, as a whole class. And then these next 2 pages, these are like the practice problems that go along with the learning that's happening. So what I really like about this is that there's some that are computational and then some that are more of that application piece, that higher level thinking. So if you have students and you're just like, man, I think they need some more examples, teachers can do some of these problems with their students and then have them do some others. So maybe for this one, you do 1 and 2 together. You have them do 3 and 4. You do 5 and 6 together. You have them do 7 and 8, right? Now, additionally, there's a lot of problems here, right? Like 14, 15 problems. That's a lot of problems for some kids to do for homework or for an in-class assignment, right? So we're not saying that teachers have to assign every single problem on this page either. So if teachers don't want to assign all of these, that's okay. We just ask that they do some that are computational and some that are higher level so that they can pick as a team which ones they want to do. But as long as some are just that straight computational and some are applications. Now, let's say you have some students, man, they're still struggling, right? Every lesson has a math replay video. So when teachers are in the digital dashboard side of things, underneath the differentiate tab, they can find all of these different resources. Each lesson has a math replay video. This is available in English and Spanish. So let's say we have a special ed student who saw the lesson and just needs to watch the video again to make some more connections. Or a student was absent. Or we have an ELL student who saw the lesson in English and now needs to watch the video in Spanish to make some of those vocabulary connections, right? So these are available in English and Spanish and for every lesson that's taught. as you're working with students, let's say you're working with your students and you know, hey man, they need more examples than what was just provided. I'm going to do this whole section with them. I'm going to do all 1 through 8 with them, give them lots of examples to work through together as a team. Well, that's where that second workbook comes in. So every student has a copy of this extra practice workbook. And in this workbook, there is an additional practice page that aligns to the lesson that was just taught that has additional practice problems. All of these are consumables. Every teacher is going to get a new one for all of their students every single year. So it's not like they have to make photocopies out of these or be careful how often they're using them. They are there for student use. And then on the digital dashboard, there are a few other options as well. Each lesson has a spiral review activity that aligns to it as well. These are things that have come from either a previous lesson or unit or maybe even an earlier grade level. And they are things that build upon, that we're building upon to learn the pieces that we're doing now. Things that maybe might come up in the next lesson that we need to keep fresh, right? And then there is also this reinforced understanding activity. So let's say we have a few students who are struggling and a teacher needs to pull a small group to do kind of a reteach activity. This activity is built in when they're on the digital dashboard. They can print this version, this worksheet here for students to work on, but there's also directions on how to use this as a small group activity. So like as the teacher, here's how you're going to lead this activity, and then here's the page your students are going to do while they're working with you. There are also these extended thinking pieces. So if you have students who are higher level thinkers, they need a challenge, right? There are a few ways that we can continue to challenge our students as well. One of those pieces is through these application station cards. On one side of those, they are in English. On the back side, they are in Spanish. They are, I think there's 3 per unit that kind of align to what the unit theme is, but challenge our students to kind of think about the math and apply it in like higher level thinking ways. So I could definitely see this if you're doing a center day and you have a group of 3 or 4 kids who are just ready for a higher challenge, give them this application station card as their task for that station day. Similar to our reinforce understanding activity page, if the teacher goes into the digital dashboard, there is also an extended thinking activity. So teachers could pull a small group. Hey, here's the activity and what you're going to do, but then, hey, here's the paper your students are going to do while they're working with you. Are there any questions about any of the things? I know I'm rambling on trying to get you through quicker since it's the morning, but if there's any questions, please let me know. All right, we'll keep going then.
I'm sorry, Amy, I have a question.
Sure.
So
go ahead.
On co-teacher, would I just be a co-teacher in like 1 first grade, 1 second grade, 1 third grade?
Okay. Yes. So you don't, it's not like, I don't know how HMH works, but in order to get access to all of the grade levels, you have to be added as a co-teacher to all of the levels. It's not like when you add yourself to second grade, you get K-5. Okay. All right. So these are some of the other pieces that teachers were given besides the student editions and their teacher edition. Anytime you see this icon, I have linked this slide deck to the calendar invite. So you guys have access to it as well. But anytime you see this icon, this is a link to something that's going to give you a little bit more information. So each of our teachers were given a manipulative kit. It came in 2 tubs, a tub A and a tub B. If you click on this link here, it's going to take you to a list that says specifically what pieces are in those manipulative kits. They were also given this purple bin here This box had their teacher editions in it. It has the application station cards in it. It has the assessment, like the Blackline Masters for the assessments, but it also has the Game Station resource book. And that Game Station resource is where teachers are going to get the black lines for all of the center activities. So each lesson has a center activity that teachers can use with that lesson. Some of them are like card sorts or games or different things like that. And that can all be found in this Game Station resource book. So each unit also has some assessment options. In the student edition, there are unit reviews at the end of each unit. It focuses on vocab, but it also focuses in on the tasks and the math applications that have happened throughout that unit. There's also, again, some opportunities for students to reflect on the learning that has happened. The really cool thing is you can give it to them from their student edition like they have, or if you assign it digitally, it now becomes tech enhanced, again, like those forward pieces. I know that tech is tight right now. I understand that, but I'm just suggesting maybe a teacher does it once before forward exam, right? So like maybe, you know what, I'm in unit 5, I'm going to go ahead, borrow all of the Chromebooks, and I'm going to do this one digitally to give them that drop down menu and that drag and drop in those pieces, just some experience in that, right? And then maybe next unit, another teacher does it. It's an option. I'm not saying it has to happen. It's just it is a nice feature since it is a tech enhanced once it becomes that digital piece. Each unit also has a performance task. This performance task, again, it's that multi-part task, similar to some of the things they're going to start seeing later on in forward exam. So I would, if you have some, super high level thinkers, maybe you pull this performance task as a center activity for them as well. They can work through this task together as a group. But then each unit also has 2 versions of an assessment. So there's a Form A and a Form B. I know some teachers use Form A as the assessment, and then they use Form B in case any student needs to retake the assessment. So then they have an additional copy of it. Some teachers use one of those as a review and then the other one as the assessment. Both of those options are fine. However, if the team wants to use it, that's fine. Another piece of this is that some of these assessments are a little bit long. Okay, we're used to the Origo ones that were like 1 page front and back. And these are a little bit longer. There's a little bit more options here. I know some teams have taught the beginning part of the unit, pulled the first page of the assessment and given that, then taught the second part of the unit and used the second part of the assessment. So kind of divided the assessment into mini pieces instead. That's fine. I know other teams that have looked at this assessment and said, you know what, there are 3 questions about adding decimals. I don't need them to do it 3 times for me. So they, as a PLC team, sit down and say, okay, between 1, 2, and 3, I really like number 2. They take a screenshot of it and kind of put it into their own format and only do that piece. And I'm okay with that too. I do not need students to do 14, 15 questions on an assessment to prove their knowledge, right? As long as your PLC teams are deciding this together, which questions it is that they want to assess, and that they are using the questions from the resource, I'm fine with that decision. All right, I'm going to switch over to the ACI website now. Is there any questions about like the resource piece? Okay. So when teachers go to the ACI website, we've kind of changed the way that we get to your pieces so that teachers get to their grade level content quicker. But if they kind of take one backtrack step, they can get to this elementary math homepage. And so from this page, there's lots of different pieces. My contact information is on there, and that's my cell phone number. Please feel free. Most people already have it. Please feel free to text anytime. It's the best way to get a hold of me, but email works too. So does Gmail chat. On this page, there's a copy of the must-dos and may-dos, those look-fors for classrooms, and also those domain headers that we're using in Infinite Campus now. Again, this is a link. So if you click on this page, it's going to take you to that home page where you can see some of the other pieces that are also available here. Here is a close-up of those classroom look-fors. And the piece that I really want to stress here is that these must-do, may-dos are not necessarily must-do, may-dos every single day. They're must-do, may-dos for the unit. Like you're not going to use the math in action video every single day. It's once a unit, right? Or that Ignite activity. It's a once a unit kind of thing. Center options are down there. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit when we get to the scope and sequence. But the thing that I want to point out here is that on the must-do side are those formative math probes. So 4, 5, and 6, and I'm bringing 6 in because we have some K-8s here with us today. But 4th, 5th, and 6th have specific formative math probes that they're doing once a quarter. So once a quarter, teachers need to give this formative math probe. And then we're going to be tracking that data for those students to track the growth on how we're doing on this. We encourage the other grade levels to do them, realizing because it is some explaining and writing and pieces like that, that maybe K1, 2 doesn't do it yet. They'll start second semester or when they feel comfortable. But it is really a great option and an opportunity for our students to kind of get into that justification and explaining your reasoning piece more than just the computational, do the math. All right, so this is our scope and sequence document. Each grade level has one. They're divided by quarters. So this is a quarter 2, a second quarter one for second grade. If you're here in Unit 5, you can see the title of the unit, the main learning focus for that unit, like the guiding question, and how many days are given for that unit within the pacing guide. Here, you'll see that a whole day was given for those unit opener activities, showing the STEM in action videos, doing some of those Ignite activities, introducing some of the vocabulary. There's a whole day given for some of those pieces. And then it's basically a lesson a day. So, you have a lesson a day. And then as you get further down, you're going to see there's this formative math probe in here. This, like I said, is a great activity that teachers can use with their students. On one side of it is very computational. Students do the math, circle answers, right, in a formative kind of math way. And then on the other side of that page, they have to explain their reasoning or justify their answer. It doesn't necessarily have to be complete sentences. It could be bullet points. It could be words or phrases. It could be any kind of visual representation, right, that they've used to solve the math. That's a way to explain their reasoning. But you'll see that there's also some flex days thrown in there for our teachers. If our teachers are not doing the formative math probe for this unit, they can pull this day as an additional flex day as well then. I know that a lot of teachers have mentioned that they're having trouble getting through all of it. You saw how much was available, right? For each lesson, for each unit, there's a lot of different pieces teachers could be using. And so teachers are worried that they're not getting to centers frequently enough. So one of the things that I have suggested is maybe they teach 3 lessons, right? Like maybe you've started your unit, you do 5-1, 5-2, 5-3. Take one of those flex days and have a day that's just centers. Pull your small groups that you need to do some reteaches with. Pull the center activities that aligned to 1, 2, and 3. Have kids out in your room doing the games and things that go along with that. And so don't do any new lesson that day. Pull a flex day and do it as a center day. And then keep going, right? Maybe do the next 3 or 4 and have a center day and pull all of the centers that go with those lessons that you've taught. That's one of those options that we've kind of been talking with teachers about. And then there is a whole day for review and a whole day for assessments as well. So we've kind of paced it out and given a little bit of extra time within there. On the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades scope and sequence documents, the box for the math probe that is the required one is shaded in. So teachers know like, hey, this is the one that's required for this quarter. So when you're on that ACI website, underneath the scope and sequence, you're going to see our rubrics. On the scope and sequence, you'll see like here, lessons 1 and 2 aligned to OA or operations in algebraic thinking. And then 3, 4, 5 all aligned to NBT or operations in numbers base 10, right? So that tells us when I'm scoring things from section 5.1, or when I'm here at the end, I'm going to score things using those pieces. That's the part of the rubric that I use. So these are those domain headers, right, that we saw briefly. So if I'm scoring unit 5, it said it aligned to OA. So I'm going to go to the OA section of the rubric, and I'm going to use the row that correlates to my unit or what I've been teaching. And then this is divided out into those 4, 3, 2, 1 levels. These are available in English and Spanish, so teachers can use them with their students and kind of show, hey, where do you think you are, right? Or explain it in a way that helps them identify their proficiency levels. So we did move away from those superhero standards, right? In the previous years, teachers had very specific superhero standards that they were aligned to. And this year we've moved towards these math domains instead. So if you go like down the kindergarten row, you'll see these are the 5, and these are the ones that are in kindergarten infinite campus that they're scoring. The reason we did this is twofold. One, we found last year with those superhero standards that if a teacher was teaching something and it was, let's say, an NBT, a number operations base 10 standard 2, but they were the priority standard or the superhero standard was NBT 5, they either didn't put it in Infinite Campus because it wasn't the superhero standard, or they were like, it kind of aligns to this one, and they were like just putting them anywhere, right? So by going to these domain headers, anything that aligns to any of the NBT standards now rolls up into that domain, okay? The other reason we've gone this way is those are the same reporting categories as the forward exam. So now we are reporting our scores in Infinite Campus using the same categories that the forward exam uses as well. These are blueprints that DPI put out. I've linked 3, 4, and 5 here. They are available through 8th grade as well. And basically this tells us which of the standards are those major concepts at each grade level, which ones are supporting, and which ones are those additionals are kind of nice to knows. But also it tells us how many questions are going to be on the forward exam that align to those pieces. So like right here, this points possible column, that means that on the 3rd grade test, there are going to be 13 to 15 questions that align to operations and algebraic thinking that are going to count towards the student's score for that reporting category. So if we look all the way down, there's going to be 44 questions that are going to count toward their score. Students might have more questions than that because the state is always writing new questions. And so some of those questions are field test questions. Students will take them. They're not going to know if they count or not, but those field test questions do not contribute towards a student's score or that their reporting categories. But then these M, A's, and S's tell us that these are those major pieces, supporting pieces, or additional pieces. So like here, the M's, those are ones that are really, really, really important, right? They're the ones that our 3rd graders need to have mastery of in order to be successful moving into 4th grade. Whereas these A's, those are some of those nice to know pieces that we're going to continue to work on and continue to build upon as we move forward. So on the ACI website, if they keep scrolling down, underneath all of those pieces are these unit planner and resource folders. There's one for each unit. There's a unit planner document in there that tells teachers like, hey, here's some of the great activities you could be doing. Here's where it aligns in Infinite Campus. Here's the parent letter. Here's all these different pieces that you could use, right? What's nice about this is that all our curriculum writers over the summer pre-downloaded a lot of those pieces from McGraw-Hill. So while McGraw-Hill, the teachers could go into the digital piece, a lot of those pieces are already downloaded and in these folders on ACI. Things like the slide deck that's already ready to go, the assessments, all of those pieces are kind of already in here for teachers. So they don't necessarily have to go into McGraw-Hill and like dig through all the pieces while that platform is still really new to us. All right. Any questions before I move into some more details about these formative math probes? All right. So like I said, every grade level has formative math probes in every unit. We are requiring 4, 5, and 6 to do these formative math probes. There's one per quarter that are going to be tracked for data purposes, and we're going to be looking at growth across the year. So we're in quarter 2 now. So 4th grade should be doing the probe for unit 6. 5th grade should be doing unit 5, and then 6th grade is going to be doing unit 1. I know that sounds silly, but on the scope and sequence, we flip some units around for 6th grade. The elementaries, they're already in the student edition books. So teachers don't have to make any photocopies of these. They're already in the books. They just rip that page out and it's ready to go. At the secondary level, they do have to print copies, but it is just a one-page kind of front of a page activity. And so for 6th grade, I have linked them in here on this document as well. So they have access to those quickly. If you go to this, so from the 4, 5, and 6 math webpage, there's also this button that takes them to a website that has more specifics about the formative math probes. It'll have this document, and then here's some of that information that's also on that webpage. There are specific rubrics to use for these. The white part across the top of each of those rubrics aligns to that domain header category, just like the other rubrics we've been looking at. And then that green piece or purple, blue, whatever grade level, those are the specific success criteria for that math probe. So it talks about what kind of things are we looking for in visual representations? What mathematical vocab are we looking for our students to do? How are we going to be scoring these things within those proficiency levels, right? So for 4 and 5, they're available in English and Spanish. And then at the 6th grade level, they're available for the EBG, but then also for our IB program as well. Over here, you can see our formative math probe data tracker dashboard. So every school that's doing this is listed here. And if you click, like if you're at frat and you click on frat, it's going to take you to specifically your data tracker for your building. You only have access to your building's data. So no one's snooping around at your data, right? It's only principals, coaches, and then the teachers at those grade levels. And then across the bottom of your data tracker are the names of the teachers and each grade level for each class. I've already inputted student names into it. So all teachers have to do is click onto their tab and enter the 4321s into the data tracker. Then on my end, I have a district-wide one that pulls the information from all the different schools and puts like all of 4th grade together onto one data sheet so that we can kind of find some data pieces, track that data, but then also do some dashboarding of the information and track how our students are doing. We are at the start of quarter 2 now. So all of the quarter 1 math probes should be done and entered on these forms. So if you're clicking into this and you're looking at yours and you see a teacher or some classes that haven't supplied or haven't put in their information, you can feel free to give them a reminder. There's a reminder in the Friday Focus going out this week for teachers to go ahead and enter in their quarter 1 information as we're wrapping up the end of the quarter here. All right, so another piece that I really like about our curriculum is that there are some family communication options in there. Each unit has a family letter that, again, introduces that STEM character kid that we're using for that unit. It introduces some of the math that's going to be happening. It has some of the vocabulary that our students are going to need to learn, and also some of the strategies that are being used, like here, how to decompose an addend to do some double digit addition, right? But what I really like about this is at the bottom of this family letter is an at-home activity. So if you have parents that are saying like, hey, what can I be doing with my students at home? Here's an activity that they could be doing as well. Additionally, students can always go on Alex or Alex Adventure from at home and get into any of the lessons and practice within there. These family letters are available in English and Spanish. And they're already downloaded and in those resource folders as well. So teachers can print them and send them home. They can put them out on like Class Dojo. They can email them out. There's lots of different options here, right? However, if they are not, parents still have access to these, right? So I have updated the elementary math side for the like the community facing portal. So when parents go in, they can click on the elementary and then click from the 4 core content. On the math ones, there is this piece here, which is just an overview of topics, units, and lessons. Kind of like what you would see in a table of contents of the document or of our books. It says like, here's the unit, here's what's happening, here's the lessons that are happening, right? Here in the middle are those parent letters. So parents can click on this and, the English or the Spanish. So those are all available right there for them as well. And then on this end are these math milestones. Math Milestones is another independent group that is partnered with Achieve the Core and Common Core State Standards. And basically they wrote mathematical tasks that align to each of those major standards for the grade level. So at the end of the grade year, these are things that our students should be able to do. So these are some great tasks that parents could pull and do at home again. Okay, I've spewed a lot of information at you for the last 45 minutes now. There's my email address. Most of you have my cell phone number, like I said. Any questions? Okay. I know there's a lot of pieces to this, and that's some of the feedback that I've been getting from teachers as well, is there's so many options here. I don't know what pieces to be using. I don't feel like I'm doing this well. And I just want to remind them to give themselves some grace. This is year 1 of implementation. Think back to the first year of using HMH, right? Like that was a hard year. We're learning which pieces really work for us and our students. So my suggestion is do the pieces you're comfortable with. Maybe in the next unit, pull a new piece and use that piece for that unit. The next unit, pull another new piece, and like slowly roll into these things until you find the routines and strategies that really work for you. But if there are questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to come out to your buildings, meet with teachers, meet with you, help support in any way that I can. All right. Well, if there's no questions.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What's up, Amy?
Give me a second to turn off recording.
Okay.